Today, we're diving deep into the data, the messy corporate realities, and the massive regulatory actions surrounding what is, without a doubt, the biggest drug revolution in a generation. We're going to look right past those glossy advertisements and celebrity endorsements to figure out exactly what the FDA is uncovering about a medication that has literally taken over our culture.
Let's jump right in. To quote one expert, America is in the middle of the biggest drug revolution in a generation. And honestly, that's not just hype. We are talking about a fundamental, ground-up shift in how the medical community and really the public approach weight loss and metabolic health. But as we know, with revolutions come incredible and sometimes totally unforeseen consequences.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of this thing, just think about this number: 50 million. That is 50 million prescriptions written for a drug that doctors have openly and enthusiastically called a miracle. It's bringing in billions of dollars every single year. But, the sheer volume of these prescriptions is exactly why the regulatory scrutiny we're about to get into is so absolutely crucial for public health.
Part 1. The Ozempic phenomenon.
So it actually started relatively quietly back in 2017 when the FDA approved Ozempic, which is the brand name for the drug semaglutide. At the time, it was strictly a treatment for type 2 diabetes. It basically works by mimicking a hormone that regulates your blood sugar and your appetite. But pretty soon after, this massive off-label trend took off. Patients taking it for diabetes were losing a ton of weight without even trying. The idea spread like wildfire, and doctors started prescribing it off-label purely for weight loss. Fast forward to today, and we're looking at a full-blown Hollywood explosion. We're talking before and after photos everywhere, talk show specials, and just unprecedented media coverage. It completely morphs from a standard blood sugar regulator into a massive cultural staple.
Part 2. The 2026 FDA warning.
But behind all those shiny celebrity endorsements, a completely different story was quietly piling up in regulatory databases. 986. Since its approval in 2017, the FDA has received reports of 986 people dying after taking semaglutide.
And it doesn't stop there. By March 2026, the FDA was monitoring more than 66,000 total cases of people experiencing adverse events while taking it. Let that sink in. That is an enormous volume of data for regulators to sift through, and it really paints a picture of a drug having profound and sometimes seriously unintended effects on the human body. And here's the real kicker. Out of those 66,000 monitored cases, 35,157 were classified as serious. That's more than half. So we're not just talking about some mild nausea here. We're talking about severe, life-altering medical events. Which brings us to January 13th, 2025. FDA investigators walked into Novo Nordisk's US headquarters in New Jersey. It was supposed to be just a routine inspection to check their safety data reporting. While what they found was definitely not routine. It ultimately triggered a massive FDA warning letter in March 2026. The FDA cited serious violations of reporting requirements. They actually discovered 3 patient deaths, including 1 suicide, that went completely uninvestigated and unreported. Novo Nordisk allegedly failed to report these severe reactions within the legally required 15-day timeframe. 3 deaths, just totally uninvestigated by the company manufacturing America's most popular drug.
Part 3. Uncovering the side effects. So what exactly are these side effects? Well, one of the most severe conditions emerging from the data is gastroparesis. This is literally stomach paralysis. It's a condition where the stomach just stops moving food through the digestive system the way it's supposed to. Patients describe feeling permanently full, like they are completely unable to eat solid food. In the most extreme documented cases, patients have actually needed feeding tubes just to survive. And then there's this other devastating side effect that has become the focal point of a ton of lawsuits: NAION. This is a very rare optic nerve condition. Patients have literally reported waking up to sudden and potentially permanent vision loss in one eye. Just imagine that for a second. You take a medication prescribed for weight management, and you end up losing your sight. This is exactly what's at stake for the thousands of plaintiffs filing lawsuits all across the country right now. Unfortunately, the list of known serious side effects goes on. Pancreatitis is a major red flag. The UK regulator alone received nearly 400 independent reports of acute pancreatitis linked to GLP-1 drugs, which included 10 deaths. There are also reports of deep vein thrombosis, severe hypoglycemia, and serious kidney injury. Plus, Ozempic actually carries a black box warning about a potential link to thyroid cancer, which was based on animal studies. But perhaps most alarmingly of all, the FDA investigated a potential link between the drug and suicidal ideation. Now, while they didn't find a conclusive connection, the fact that one of those uninvestigated deaths hidden by Novo Nordisk was a suicide, well, that raises some incredibly serious questions about transparency.
Part 4. The billion-dollar business.
Now let's talk money, because the financial whiplash for Novo Nordisk here has been severe. Back in 2024, they were riding incredible corporate highs. Ozempic and Wegovy were pulling in over $20 billion in revenue. That pushed the company's market value over $600 billion, making it the single most valuable company in Europe. But jump to the 2026 market reality. Following that FDA warning letter and mounting public pressure, the stock plummeted 27%, dropping down to around $38 a share. That is a heavy, swift financial drop.
And it's not just the FDA hammering the stock, it's a perfect storm of political and regulatory headwinds. Market competition is fierce right now, especially from rivals like Eli Lilly's Mounjaro. On top of that, there's major government action at play. We've seen Health Secretary RFK Jr. publicly call out the drug's high pricing and block a previous Biden-era proposal that would have expanded Medicare coverage of GLP-1 drugs to roughly 7 million Americans. So you've got this massive company being squeezed by regulators on safety, squeezed by competitors, and squeezed by a divided government over access and cost.
Part 5. The human cost.
Through all these numbers, we really have to keep the larger historical context in mind. Ozempic is hardly the first drug to become a massive cultural phenomenon before its full risks were truly understood. Think about Vioxx, right? It was taken by 80 million Americans before it got pulled in 2004 because it was linked to tens of thousands of heart attacks. Or look at OxyContin, the engine of the opioid epidemic. In both of those historical cases, the companies knew more than they disclosed. Warnings were ignored or delayed, and ordinary people paid the ultimate price. The huge question regulators and courts are asking in 2026 is simply this: are we watching a pattern repeat itself with Ozempic?
Now, I want to be really clear about something. This doesn't mean Ozempic has no value. For type 2 diabetics, it genuinely is a game changer for disease management. For severe obesity, it can produce results that diet and exercise alone often just can't touch. The drug works. But working and being safe for everyone are two totally different things. The FDA's core concern, the whole reason for that severe warning letter, isn't about whether the drug is effective. It's fundamentally about Novo Nordisk's failure to be honest and quick about reporting when it doesn't work safely.
Which leaves us, and the thousands of plaintiffs currently fighting in court, with this final lingering question. Did Novo Nordisk know? And if they knew about the severe stomach paralysis, the vision loss, the deaths, why did they keep selling it? Why did they keep pumping money into advertising and paying influencers while allegedly hiding the absolute worst outcomes from the very agency meant to protect us? Look, the 2026 FDA warning letter isn't the end of this story. It's just the beginning of a massive reckoning. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning what you're told.